Every farm has a story. When it comes to dairy farming, these stories are often only heard by the animals raised, the land stewarded, and the family that makes it all possible. Join me, Dairy Gal Val, as I interview individuals from across the dairy industry, both within the United States and across the globe, discussing topics like farm management, the food industry, ag business and technology, and most importantly, their farm story. This is the Dairy Hour Podcast. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Dairy Hour Podcast. I am your host, Dairy Gal Val, and I am joined by the one and only cow nerd, also known as Catherine Bosley. How are you, Catherine?
I'm doing really good, Val. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really excited to chat with you. I've always loved your content and followed along for a couple years now on your journey of social media and your journey in life. So that's really, really cool. And I'm excited to dive in today. So if you want to start, talk a little bit about what you're doing now, your farm, and just where you're at currently.
Yeah, so I grew up on my family's small registered Jersey herd in northern New York. So we milk about 50 head, and we're kind of an intensive rotational grazing operation. So the farm is owned by my parents, Jen and Charles, and my younger brother Patrick is helping on the farm when he's not at college. So that's kind of been my background to start out with, which I'm currently in New York right now, but I actually spend most of the year in Minnesota because I am working on my master's in the animal science department over at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities, actually. And I study dairy cattle genetics.
It's fascinating to be like, I don't know if a lot of people realize that there's like, you can get your master's in dairy cattle genetics. Like, it's just one of those, seems like a very obscure thing. I mean, as a dairy farmer, we know that it's such a huge part of the dairy industry, especially in today's world. But for the average consumer to have a master's in that is pretty fascinating, if I do say so myself. So are you milking in a parlor or a tie stall at home?
So we actually converted part of our old tie stall into a step up flat barn parlor. So we done that back in 2012, and we actually have a compost bedded pack barn for our milking herd that they go in and out of when we're grazing, of course. And we just use part of the old tie stall for dry cows and older heifers just during the winter.
Okay, and how many months out of the year, being in northern New York, we know winters are fairly harsh up there. How many months out of the year are you guys usually able to get the cows out onto pasture?
Yeah, so we usually have them out kind of first couple of weeks of May, and then generally late October, early November, they're coming back in. But by then, we're usually supplementing
Yeah,
their forage a bit with some baleage by then.
yeah, definitely. So you're getting, close to 6 months, hopefully, out on a rotational
Yeah.
grazing system. That's really cool. Not bad for northern New York, where it's winter, you know, 10 months out of the year, it seems. Um, so that's really exciting. Do you want to start, um, talking about your past? What made you want to dive into the dairy industry and all those good things?
Yeah, of course. So, like I said, I grew up on a dairy farm, so I've always been involved with it. It's always been a big part of me growing up. I have been showing dairy cows since I was about 2 years old. There is, in fact, photo evidence of me at 2 years old showing a calf at the fair with my mom. And I was, of course, involved in 4-H, and I was part of the Junior Jersey Association, and I'm now a lifetime member. So, kind of a fun thing that most people wouldn't know is that I actually, at the age of 12, started showing American British White Park beef cattle because my grandpa has a small herd for his retirement project. So I
Everyone
was
needs a good
also doing a
retirement
little bit of
project.
that. And of course, he loves getting to still be involved with cattle with the beef, and he does a little bit of beef on dairy crossing as well that he's kind of been enjoying. So it's always been a huge part of my life, and kind of 4-H is and going to the fair is where I kind of started talking with consumers and the public, just asking, did they want to pet my calf, or they, see me walking a calf, or little me showing a Jersey cow that's taller than I am. which is pretty impressive with a Jersey to be taller than you.
Yeah, it works well
But
when you started
you
so
know,
young that you started with a nice small breed of cow at least. Maybe not the most docile, but
oh, they can be friendly. They just have personality.
ex- yes, personalities will make that the nice way to say it. So how many generations has your farm been in your family?
So the current farm that my parents are on was actually started by my maternal grandfather. He used to be a high school history teacher just outside of Boston and then started farming part-time and moved to northern New York to farm full-time. And my dad's side has been farming forever. We don't know how long. It's been forever. Many generations of dairy farming, but my grandpa on my dad's side did sell out. So it's kind of a complication of like the farm is three generations with my brother and I, but my brother and I have a longer lineage
Oh, for
of
sure.
farming from my dad's side.
That's neat that you have it from both sides though. That's cool and not something that a lot of people these days get the opportunity to say that they have the farming lineage from both ends of the spectrum. So that's really cool. So what made you decide so you went to where did you go to college for your bachelor's?
So I did my bachelor's at SUNY Cobleskill.
My alma
It was in
mater.
animal science.
Always a always great to talk to a Kobe grad as well. So what made you say, "Hey, I'm gonna stick with the dairy industry. This is what I'm gonna do. Let's go for it."
Well, like I said, it's always been a big part of my life, and I was really interested, especially in the animal science side, taking care of our animals. And then I always had a little bit of interest in the communications type aspect as well, as I was in the dairy promotion program, was a dairy princess for my county, and it kind of evolved from there on wanting to always learn more about taking care of our cows and the science behind dairy farming. And that kind of led to getting an animal science bachelor's.
Very cool. And then, so what do you plan to do with your dairy cattle genetics masters?
Well, I still have about a year to go until I'm finished. So, kind of debating on the PhD question
Ooh,
right now. So, still up in the air at the moment, but definitely thought process going on.
do you see yourself potentially coming back to the farm, or have you decided that that's probably not the route you're going to take, or what's your thought on that? Or you don't have to share if you're not comfortable.
Well, I'm not sure that I would necessarily want to farm full time. That's kind of been a thought that I've had since, I mean, I was in high school, honestly.
Yep.
I've kind of wanted to, I've thought about kind of going back and forth on the, college professor or versus industry question, of course, because I do really enjoy the extension aspect that you can
Okay.
get as a professor for cooperative extension. I would still own Jersey cows. That will never go away.
She'll never not have the cows. Oop, did we lose you quick? So, you've kind of talked about your how you've always had a love of dairy promotion and you've always had a love of cows. So you have started and been very successful with your handles on social media as Cow Nerd. How did you come up with Cow Nerd? When did you start it? And how has it grown since you've started it?
Yeah, so I actually started advocating on social media a little bit over 4 years ago. I consider June 1st as kind of the anniversary that I use, which, Dairy Month is
World Milk
perfect.
Day. It's the perfect. I mean, that's the day the podcast launched,
Exactly.
so that's a great day. I completely feel that.
Yeah, so honestly, I saw different dairy farmers talking about it on social media, what they do with their everyday life and trying to connect with the public and everything. And I kind of thought, I could do that. So I had finished 1 year of college and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I kind of eventually, when I started, I had actually gone in with my cousin Kate. So we originally were under the handle Cousins and Cows. And
Okay.
then, kind of as it progressed a few months in, I ended up doing more of the stuff. And Kate wanted to do a little bit more of her other, she does some ag communication stuff in kind of a different realm. So it eventually evolved into cow nerd. Kind of the reason behind the cow nerd name is that it's not always cool to be seen as a nerd, especially as a woman. And I kind of wanted to make it cool to be excited, to be interested in science, that you can be excited about things and not feel like you need to be chill and calm. You can be excited about things. Especially, I've always
Nerd
been
out
really into
totally on
science
cows.
and cows, like obsessed.
Yes.
So, I was never made to like fit in a box that I had to contain my interests and excitement over things. So I just project that into social media. It is the
Perfect.
same deal.
It's a great outlet and you do a great job. I definitely look forward to seeing your posts. They're always so informational, and some of the charts and graphics that you come up with are always so unique and really cool. So I appreciate that definitely. So you also, as part of your master's and doing stuff through the University of Minnesota, you just went on a pretty exciting trip. Do you want to talk a little bit about the trip that you just got to go on?
Yeah, so I only like just got back a couple days ago at the time of this recording from Ottawa for the American Dairy Science Association annual meeting. So there was over 1,600 participants from around the world. So these are industry people, university professors, graduate students, undergraduate students as well. It's a whole big amalgamation of people that are all into dairy in different aspects, from dairy genetics, nutrition, reproduction, welfare, even some dairy foods people as well. So you get the whole spectrum of that. So we sent a huge group from the University of Minnesota Animal Science Department, from which almost everyone in the dairy section had gone. So most people flew. I decided I was going to go in the group that was driving because we were going to be doing some farm tours. So it was completely worth it. The 17 and a half hour drive was worth it because we got to stop and tour at Milk Source Genetics in Wisconsin, and I got to meet a very, very, very famous Jersey cow named Martha. So it was worth it. I got to take a selfie with her. I got to touch her nose. Worth
Fangirl
the whole
moments
drive.
from a cow person. Yes. I've been
Yes.
there, done that. There was actually a famous brown Swiss that lives 45 minutes to an hour from me, and she had just sold for over $200,000 Delilah. And I actually, we had our
Yep.
food truck at the auction, and I got to go, and I walked out as she was walking back to the barn from the sale ring, and I got to pet her. And actually, it's really funny because I think it was like Dairy Agenda or somebody took a picture of me in my apron from the food truck petting this cow, and it was all over social media, and everyone's like, "Look, it's Val." So that was like my fangirl moment. And I'm not even like, I mean, I like brown Swiss, but they're not like, if I had to pick my favorite, they're not going to be my favorite. But I mean, Delilah is just she's been supreme champion at World Dairy Expo multiple times. So it was just a huge fangirl moment. It's meeting, a famous celebrity actor in normal people world, I
Oh
guess,
yeah.
but we just get more excited about meeting those famous cows. So I completely feel you there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
When they're one name famous, they are
Yes.
famous.
That's how you know you made it, when you're known as one name. Definitely. So that's really exciting. And I think that you also did a presentation up there.
Yeah. So I give a little bit of a talk on some of my preliminary work with my master's, where I was presenting some of our early data on milk fatty acids between Holstein and crossbreds at one of our research herds.
That's that's really cool at such a young age that you get to be a part of such a huge conference and present that research and go on and do the things. That's really, when people ask me about the future of the dairy industry, I always say the future looks bright, and it's because of people like you that it makes me excited for the future, and it definitely looks bright. So that's so exciting. So do you have any fun farm stories, things like that you what's like a defining moment of like you knew you were hooked on cows when?
I don't know if there's one moment. There's a few that come to mind. I was always loved the calves. Like the calves are always my favorite thing to do when I was little. Help my mom feed the calves, and eventually got responsibility of feeding the calves. in my early teens and everything. And I think that's just a good way to kind of start doing farm chores when you're younger is with the calves. I think
Yeah.
probably the moment that kind of comes to mind as like a really special moment
Yep.
was actually so the first year I got to show at the All American Jersey Show, which is in Louisville, Kentucky.
Very
So that
cool.
was my first time showing. I was 13, really excited. And then a couple days later was the open show. So my mom was leading one of the heifers that we had brought. And like, we were like kind of caught off guard. We're like, oh, she won her class. Oh, huh. And then, junior champion comes around. So you have all the first and seconds for each of the heifer classes up. And then we get named national champion. Like it was just like, you know, the rest of my family was at ringside. Mom's leading this heifer, and like her face like lit up, like it was insane. Like you could see her smile from the other side of the ring. Like
That's awesome.
it was crazy.
Things
So
like
that's
that,
just
that
one of those moments that you don't forget.
yes, definitely. Now, did you guys have an inkling that she was like that good when you went there, or were you just happy to be there, happy to be going?
Yeah, I mean, we thought she was, a really good heifer. That's why we brought her to the national show, and there was a little bit of excitement, like some of the other people we had tied in with because we just brought a couple heifers, so we were tied in a group. We're like, she looks really good, like just coming off of this long trailer ride. So they're just kind of looking at her, and then kind of as time progresses, it just kind of builds up more and more, and then it just like it happens,
Yeah.
and it's just one of those moments.
Oh, definitely. And you also see like your heifer looks really, really good, but so do, however many other heifers that are in the class. So you're just like, okay, well, it's the judge's decision. We brought our best quality, we put our best foot forward, and you give it your all and you hope for the best. And I think that's cattle showing, and some get lucky, some don't. So that's really neat that you had that moment and got to be there and experience that. So that's really cool. Did she go on to do stuff as a cow or
I mean, she's had a lot of really nice progeny, so we've had some really nice daughters and granddaughters out of her that have done well,
very cool?
including like a nominated a milking yearling from last year who's a granddaughter. So like she's made a lot of really nice daughters and granddaughters.
Good.
She had some issues as a cow, so we weren't able to bring her out as a cow, but she
Yep.
made quite a few nice ones for us
She's
though.
got some nice babies. Good. Good to hear. So I guess at this point in the podcast, I like to do some random questions, just to have some fun. In honor, which I guess in honor of this episode will be dropping in National Ice Cream Month. So, what's your go-to flavor of ice cream?
I'm into anything that has like pie pieces or cake pieces in it. So like I love Stewart's blueberry pie in the sky, apple pie ice cream, anything like that. If they don't have that, it's like black raspberry or strawberry.
She likes the fruity ones.
Yeah.
Your favorite season?
Summer, easy one.
Easy peasy. Your favorite cut of beef?
Ooh, I like a good T-bone steak.
Yep, I completely agree with you there. I love a good ribeye, T-bone, porterhouse, like any of those really good ones.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much any cut of steak is probably my favorite, and I'm never gonna turn it down. But like, yeah, those are some pretty good ones. Lake or ocean?
Hmm, that's a tough one. I've only been to the ocean a couple times, but I've been to lots of lakes. And living in Minnesota now, there's lakes everywhere. uh, I guess I'll lean towards lake, but it's not a strong favorite.
You'll take anything you can get for vacation, right?
Yeah, what's vacation?
Good point. Good point. Um, so have you done a little bit of traveling besides just from upstate, northern New York to Minnesota, or just pretty much from northern New York to Minnesota?
Well, like I said, I've been to Louisville, Kentucky, And then, been through quite a bit of New England as well, bit of the Midwest. Was in Missouri last year for the same conference because they moved around.
Yep.
So
So there you go. You get to,
done a little bit.
you're like me, you get to, right at the moment, pretty much my traveling consists of like, where's my conference or my meeting at? That's where I get to go. Woo. So okay, so if someone said, Catherine, you get a week anywheres in the world you want, where would you go?
Mm, Australia or New Zealand?
That makes sense. I can see you answering that now that once I asked it, I was like, oh, I bet you that's where she'd go. All the grazing and the dairy down there,
Well,
definitely.
I'd want to be there for International Dairy Week.
Ooh, there you go. That would be fun. I heard that there's snakes down there, and snakes and I are not friends. So I'm like,
Yeah, I mean,
kind of nervous.
visiting's fine. I don't know if I'd want to, live there for a long time. I
Yeah,
might get eaten by a snake.
yeah. And I don't want to like. I guess that I don't want to ruin my like good thoughts about kangaroos because I hear that they're kind of a pest down there. So I like kangaroos being a novelty item, not just a pest. So we're gonna like go with that. Someday, hopefully, I'll make it down under. But for now, I'm just gonna keep the illusion that kangaroos are awesome and go with it. Your family, you guys also ship to Cabot, Agrimark
Yeah,
Cabot, don't you?
yeah, we're also part of Agrimark, just like you guys.
Very good. That's what I thought, and I completely missed the ball on that earlier in the episode. So, in lieu of that, favorite Cabot product?
Mm, I'm a
Hard to
fan.
pick just one, I know.
I'm a fan of like the Alpine Cheddar Cabot. Mom and I have debates on this because she's more of a fan because our milk also goes to macadam products
Okay.
too, and she likes the macadam extra sharp. So we
Also
have
a
debates
solid
on the
choice.
best
Yep.
cheddar.
So Macadam and Cabot are both owned by our co-ops. So
Yes,
they're one in the same, but Cabot tends to be the more popular brand. So that's just kind of the way that we gravitate towards. So out of the new Cabot products, have you tried all the mac and cheese and the popcorn and the things like that?
I've tried the mac and cheese, but I do enjoy the mac and cheese.
The
I
mac
want
and
some
cheese,
shipped out to me in Minnesota.
the mac and
Mom's
cheese is
listening,
top notch.
please. I've been yet to try the popcorn, but I've been wanting to.
Go find it. It's delicious. I can't wait. I need to get, they just did like a salted caramel one, and
Mm.
I need to get my hands on that because salted caramel is where it's at for popcorn for me. Um, let's see. You're on a road trip. What is your go-to fast food stop?
For in the Midwest, it's Culver's.
Oh, yes. You speak my language. Of course, we don't have Culver's around here, but anytime I go anywheres with a Culver's, and we talked about this in the first episode with Brittany, and oh my gosh, Culver's is the best. Definitely. You speak my
Absolutely.
language. I love it. That's awesome. Let's see. We're gonna finish it off with um your what's your go-to milk of choice? Whole
Whole.
2% whole. She's a whole milk girl
Yeah.
too. Even though I've
Yep.
really been getting into the Core Power Elite Protein chocolate
Mhm.
milks. Oh my gosh, they're so good. So, and I mean, I drink a lot of milk in a day. I don't usually, besides my Core Power, I don't sit down and like drink a glass of milk, but I drink enough coffee with a ton of milk in it because I'm a baby and I like it super light. So that's what the kids are like, why do you need milk, mom? You never drink a glass of milk. I was like, oh, I drink lots of milk. It's just caffeinated before I drink it. And I eat like tons of cheese and yogurt and all the other things too. So I definitely get my dairy in, but they were giving me a hard time this morning when I had to stop for milk because I needed more coffee. So and we were out of milk. So I was like, don't give me a hard time. We're getting the whole milk. Relax. So anything else that you want to make sure the audience knows, Catherine?
Well, I mean, we were chatting before we started recording about some Minnesota ag
Oh
facts.
yeah, definitely.
One of the cool ones is the Honeycrisp apple was developed at the University of Minnesota.
Ooh, they're a good
So
one too. They're nice
they're
and yeah, they're juicy. They're good.
yeah,
Very
yeah,
cool.
they're big on apples out there too. Not
Okay.
just in New York. They're big out there too.
Yeah.
And
Where
yeah,
did they
one
rank?
other cool one.
Ooh, what's that?
Oh, you're asking where they rank for dairy?
Yeah, where do they rank for dairy? I'm not 100% sure. Do you know off the top of your head?
They're number 7 in milk production for
Okay, so
last
they're
year.
actually pretty high compared. Okay, I wasn't sure how high they would be. When you think of dairying, I think that a lot of people don't really think of Minnesota, so they think of
Yeah,
they think of some of
it's a
those
pretty
other
big
big
dairy
dairy
country.
states. Um, so yeah, New York is currently at 4, so Minnesota's not too far behind them at 7. So that's pretty cool. Um, any other fun Minnesota facts that you have for us?
Well, you know Norman Borlaug, the founder of the Green Revolution.
Yep.
Yep. So he's a Minnesotan, and actually, he did all 3 of his degrees at the University of Minnesota.
Very
His
cool.
bachelor's in forestry and his master's and PhD were in the plant pathology department. They have a building named after him and this big statue. So I get
He's
to walk
kind
by
of
the
a big
statue
deal there,
most
I'm
days.
guessing.
He is a big deal, yes.
Very fascinating. All right. Catherine, do you want to remind everyone where they can find you and what platforms they can find you on?
Yeah, so everyone can find me as Cow Nerd on Facebook and cow_nerd on Instagram. And I'm also on Twitter, Cow Nerd one, all one word. You can tweet me if you want.
I have not gotten on the Twitter bandwagon. I think it's too much stress for me on Twitter. I have not figured it out. I don't know. It just does
I
not
don't do
seem like
much
me.
on Twitter, but if you tweet me, I will tweet you back.
Oh, there you go. So everyone go on Twitter and tweet Catherine. Maybe tweet
Yeah,
her
so I can
some
have more than
Rabbit
10
products.
followers, please.
What's that?
So I can have more than 10 followers on Twitter.
Yeah, go follow her. Get her up to 20, why don't we? Why not double that following this week, right? So anyways, I want to thank you, Catherine, for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Have a great summer back on the farm. Thank you everyone for joining us today for the episode or for this episode of the Dairy Hour podcast. Again, if you like what you hear, make sure you subscribe to become updated whenever we have new episodes. And also tag us on social media. You can tag me personally at Dairy Gal Val on social media. Share with your friends, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and leave a review. You can find me on most social media platforms at Dairy Gal Val or online at dairygalval.com. Thank you so much for coming to the Dairy Hour.